an efficient way of finding out who among your constituents have not yet vaccinated. Please do everything to convince them to get vaccinated. Actually, my experience as mayor, pag ang mayor sinabi niya gusto niya itong gawin, gawin mo yan. Ginagawa talaga. Depende na lang sa diskarte mo o your relationship. Kasi may mga barangay captains na kontrapartido. So the natural tendency of those of the opposite side will resist even in these matters na ganito. Ang mangyari niyan, talagang magkakaroon ka ng kaso. And bear in mind, you can be dismissed. It includes dismissals from office. Kaya wala naman tayong away dito sa bakuna. Wala naman tayong away doon tayo sa sakit. I'd like to appeal to the mayors and the barangay captains na magpasya lang siya ng kalating araw. Tanungin niya kung sino pang hindi nabakunahan. No? At sabihin niya na kung mayroong scheduled na bakuna, he will see to it na sabihin mo gusto kitang makita doon. Kasi maghahawa-hawa ka lang ng ibang tao kung ayaw mo.
The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The government is now considering to allow the use of COVID-19 booster shots for medical frontliners and seniors. But the FDA warns vaccine manufacturers have yet to revise their EUAs for this. Greg Gregorio with the details.
Since October 15, about 10,000 12 to 17-year-olds with comorbidities from Metro Manila have been given their COVID jabs. And the government wants to keep the ball rolling outside of the capital. The target date, October 29. Aside from this news, some parents were also delighted about the proposed rollout of booster shots.
Kasi if it is necessary, why not, di ba?
Regardless of brand, baka mauna akong mamatay pag nagantay ako ng brand.
The Health Department says Secretary Francisco Duque has approved the Health Technology Assessment Council's recommendation that booster shots be administered to medical frontliners and seniors. The vaccine expert panel had floated the idea as early as August.
Because during the time we saw the data coming from the Sinovac vaccine, that on the third month, the neutralizing antibody waned.
The HTAC wants Sinovac, Pfizer, or AstraZeneca as brands for booster shots, though a private hospital group prefers Moderna or Janssen.
Tagal na kaming, almost nasa na kami, 8 months na dapat 6 months mabigyan na kami ng booster shots.
Vaccine manufacturers, however, have to apply for the revision of their emergency use authorization before they can be used as booster shots. The DOH may also do so on a brand's behalf.
We are already planning and discussing on how we can go about with the implementation.
The Science and Technology Department will start its pilot study for the mix and match of COVID vaccine brands.
Gusto nating malaman kung yung effectivity ng bakuna at saka yung safety ng bakuna, yung pangatlo, ay magiging acceptable.
Marikina, Muntinlupa, and Davao are being eyed as venues for the trial. For the meantime, the World Health Organization is finalizing its complete recommendation and immunization by November. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
The government reports that some 25.7 million, or almost 24% of the country's population, have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. That's still a long way from the government target of inoculating at least 90% of Filipinos to reach herd immunity. President Duterte says local governments need to ramp up their vaccine drives so that at least 50 million Filipinos will be fully vaccinated by the end of the year. He urged LGUs to, quote, do everything to convince their constituents to get the jab.
Kung sabi ko nga may cooperation lang tayo ng lahat ng mayors, pati barangay captains, walang problema. But you have to impose your authority, not impose your will. Sunod ka nito kasi ito utos ng gobyerno.
Duterte also warned local officials that they may face dismissal if they resist the government's vaccine efforts. Interior Secretary Ed Año says they will also file charges against local government officials who may be liable for vaccine wastage. Emergency medical technicians are part of the team of frontliners who battle COVID-19 every day. But they say the hardest part of the job is dealing with uncooperative patients. More of their struggles in this report from mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro.
This was Rudolph Madulid after pulling off a 14-hour shift in full personal protective equipment or PPE.
Mararamdaman mo talaga yung init. Kaya yan, hanggang babaho yan, basa ng pawis.
Rudolph is not a doctor or a nurse from a hospital. He's an emergency medical technician or an ambulance operator in San Juan City. Working under the City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office, Rudolph's team transport 20 to 40 COVID and non-COVID patients in a single day at the height of the Delta variant surge.
We here po kasi to save lives po. Kaya hindi po pwedeng patumpik-tumpik ka sa mga gagawin. Kailangan pa po, may calls, emergency, takbo ka agad.
It's difficult enough driving through Metro Manila's traffic and navigating through the Metro's warren of side streets, but Rudolph says the most difficult part of the job is dealing with uncooperative patients who can be dangerously hostile at times.
Natutukan ka na ng patalim kasi ayaw niya magpakuha. Nasipa po ako nung pasyente namin kasi mayroong problema sa pag-iisip. Tinamaan po yung organ ko kasi nasipa niya po ako. So lumuhod ako sa sobrang sakit. Hindi ko makakalimutan yun eh. Siguro part talaga po ng pagiging rescuer po yun na minsan masaktan po talaga.
As an EMT, Rudolph's work is not just ferrying patients to a hospital. The work really boils down to keeping them alive. Due to the long queues in hospitals, ambulances would normally wait 2 to 5 hours before getting through the ER doors. And there are times the patient flatlines while waiting outside the hospital. Ironically, that's the only time they can jump the line to attempt resuscitation.
Bawat takbo po namin, nagdadasal po kami. Mabuhay lahat ng pasyente. Minsan may mga matay, makakayak talaga. Kahit gusto mong tugunan yung buhay niya, wala tayong magagawa. May mga ganung bagay. Pero pag na-revive mo naman, ginawa.
As any health frontliner knows, it's a thankless job. But for Rudolph, being able to help his fellow Filipinos live to see another day is a good enough reason to go on. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
The government reminds parents that kids below 12 are still not allowed to go out for non-essential activities. This after hordes of families with their kids flocked to the Manila Bay Dolomite Beach over the weekend. Camille Samonte with the story.
The health department has expressed its concern after thousands of people trooped to the Manila Bay Dolomite Beach over the weekend. Based on the crowd estimate, around 65,000 people visited the Dolomite Beach on Sunday alone. DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said the overcrowding in the area is a violation of rules set by the IATF. Vergeres also called on other national agencies to enforce minimum health standards.
Yung nakita po natin nung weekend, hindi po yung 50% capacity. Kung nakikita po natin na hindi kaya, baguhin po natin siguro ang proseso. Pero kailangan po makatulong po namin kayong lahat para po mapigilan po natin uli ang pagtaas ng kaso.
The palace also reminded the public that minors are only allowed outside for essential activities, which does not include visiting the Dolomite Beach.
So una-una nananawagan po kami sa ating mga kababayan, no? Pandemya pa po. Bagamat bumababa po ang mga kaso natin, nandiyan pa po si COVID-19, no? So wag po tayo magpabaya.
Following this, the DNR will now prohibit children 12 years and below to enter the Dolomite Beach. The area will also be closed from October 29 to November 3 in observance of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. The PNP, meanwhile, will deploy additional security and safety officers in the area to ensure that physical distancing is observed. For News 5, Camille Samonte, We Are One News.
Presidential aspirant Leody de Guzman says he's still open to unity talks with opposition bets following the meeting of former Senator Bongbong Marcos and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. On the Chiefs, de Guzman said he has no problem with having talks for a united opposition as long as they will champion the rights of workers. He pointed out that those opposing the administration have remained silent over the past years when it comes to labor issues like contractualization and the rice tariffication law. De Guzman believes an opposition candidate should not just aim to stop the return of the Marcoses and Dutertes in power, but also move to abolish policies that push Filipino workers further into poverty. Still, he admits that talks for unity are necessary now that Sara is backing Bongbong's bid.
Kailangan magkaroon ng klaro ng pag-uusap. Paano yung buhay naman at kabuhayan ng ating mga mamayan? Maalis nga si Marcos, maalis din si Duterte. Sinong papalit? Kung galing din lang naman yan sa exclusive subdivision, na iba ang problema sa problema ng mga manggagawa, tutuloy ko na lang yung laban ko. Kung ganun din lamang naman ang usapan.
The Commission on Elections reveals that the number of voter registrations has exceeded their targets during the extension. Speaking to us yesterday, COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez said the number of new voters is now close to 400,000. Jimenez said that he expects more people to crowd voter registration sites as we get closer to the deadline. The official also insisted that the majority of Filipinos who lined up to register to vote were cooperative.
I think for the most part, everyone was cooperative. There were a few complaints about people not being able to get accommodated after having stayed in line for quite a long time. But then again, if you look at the number of people that were actually in queue, you'd probably guess that that was the likely outcome. Again, considering the lateness of the hour.
The camp of Julian Ongpin appealed to the court to defer the possible issuance of an arrest warrant against him. Recall that the Justice Department has filed illegal drug possession charges against Ongpin, who remains to be a person of interest in the death of Bree Johnson. In the motion to dismiss that Ongpin's legal team submitted to the court, they said that the case should be dismissed due to lack of probable cause. They said the police found no direct evidence that the second pouch found on Bree Johnson's room belonged to Ongpin. This black pouch contained cocaine.
Stature of Mr. Ongpin as the son of a wealthy businessman from the Philippines. Nothing to do at all with that. And that is a very unfair speculation na simply because this man belongs to a family, to a wealthy family, gagamitin na natin ang ating ang ating batas para pagbintangan siya ng kung ano-ano kahit na walang ebidensya na pangsuporta dito.
Time now for a quick look at some of today's headlines. The Philippines detects its first case of the B11318 COVID-19 variant, which was first discovered in Mauritius. Today marks the 9th straight week of oil price hikes, and even fisherfolk are now feeling the brunt. And a bill backed by at least 5 senators seeks to ban substitution in the elections due to withdrawal. And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 10:45 a.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.